2, 1.
This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is David Icke, the English author, broadcaster, and public speaker. For the past 35 years, you have been known as a professional conspiracy researcher, making it your mission to expose who and what is really controlling the world. Your research into prominent political figures, influential family bloodlines, global events, and the pandemic has received widespread criticism from the mainstream media. At the same time, you have fostered a worldwide legion of fans who grow tired of the government cover-ups, big tech censorship, and global manipulation efforts that have become an increasing presence in our everyday lives. You have said that we must all come together to avert a global dystopia, and that nonviolent, non-cooperation only works through unity and respect. Your latest book, The Roadmap, Escaping the Maze of Madness, pulls together all the strands of your life's research: politics, finance, religion, the occult, the afterlife, multidimensional entities, and modern AI. David, welcome back.
Thank you, mate.
To London Real. As always, I need to ask everybody watching us now to please share this link to any and all of your social media platforms, chat groups, and email lists. Let me repeat that. Can everybody watching please share this link now to any and all of your channels? This is important. We must show the powers that be that you, the public, will not tolerate any more censorship, and that you demand that our voices be heard. Over 75% of our viewers come from you sharing these links peer-to-peer. So please share this now to all of your contacts and platforms. David, this is the 11th episode in our Rose Icke series, which began on March 18th, 2020, in order to make sense of the burgeoning COVID crisis and subsequent lockdowns. Rose Icke 2 was broadcast live on April 6, 2020, and was the second largest YouTube live stream in the world that day, only to be deleted and banned minutes after the episode finished. I still remember that. Unable to accept the censorship and the clear violation of our human rights, London Real went to war with every major technology platform on the planet and was soon banned or deplatformed from all of them, along with you as well, David. But we fought back. In a matter of weeks, we created the Digital Freedom Platform, and on May 3rd, 2020, with our own technology, we broadcast Rose Icke 3 to over 1 million concurrent viewers without the help of big tech. It became the largest live stream of a conversation in human history. David, and we've talked about this, I still get people to this day who stop me on the streets and thank us for that broadcast. When they speak, they get extremely emotional because that episode was a powerful moment in their lives. I think it's impossible to overstate the importance of what we did on that day. We gave people a ray of hope in the midst of a massively coordinated, false mainstream media narrative that was being relentlessly pounded into their heads. But that broadcast came with consequences. Both of us were deplatformed from YouTube and banned or shadow banned on every other tech platform. You have been banned from visiting every country in the European Union, Australia, and countless others. I find that insane. I always tell people that censorship works. They might as well put a bullet in my head because the outcome is the same. We were totally silenced. But we refused to give up. We kept fighting. You published books, you expanded your reach on iconic media, and we continued to broadcast, teach in our academy, and create documentary films. In fact, our movie, We Will Not Be Silenced, that chronicles our journey together in 2020, won over 20 global film festivals, and premiered to a raving crowd in London in 2023, as you remember. After years of takedowns, bans, shadow bans, warnings, strikes, investigations, public campaigns, and private pressure, now we are back, broadcasting live on the very platform that once tried to erase this dialogue completely. I'll be honest, David, being back on YouTube is one of the strangest things I've ever experienced. My entire life, for the past 14 years, 16,000 videos, over 1,000 interviews, 6 documentary films, over 2 million subscribers is now back. And each day, it's kind of hard to believe that it's real. But there's more work to be done. Today, I want to check in with you, David, to discover what you are seeing in the world. What do you believe is the real truth behind digital IDs, unchecked global immigration, Donald Trump and MAGA, Elon Musk, the Epstein files, the Charlie Kirk assassination, and the messages of the mainstream alternative media, like Alex Jones, Andrew Tate, Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan, and Jordan Peterson? As always, I don't agree with everything you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. The solution to quote-unquote bad information is always more information, not censorship, and we'll continue to live by these values. David, you have many critics, but this broadcast is about hearing your ideas in full, without filters, edits, or gatekeepers. Viewers may agree or disagree. They will be challenged, inspired, and provoked, but they will decide for themselves. So, David, I'd like to begin with Donald Trump. Without him, we probably wouldn't be live streaming on YouTube right now. That's probably a fact, but I'm guessing you have a few opinions on him and the MAGA movement, and also the extremely divisive politics that we're seeing around the world.
Well, I've got an enormous amount of abuse, actually since 2016, before Trump became president for the first time. When, I mean, apart from having fraud stamped to his forehead, I couldn't think of anything more obvious before me than Donald Trump is not what he claims to be. If you look at his history, which I lay out in the roadmap, he's been fundamentally part of the swamp. And in 2016, it was drain the swamp. Well, it's very difficult to drain a swamp when you're swimming in it, mate. And so the easiest way to scam people is to tell them what they want to hear, because already the door is swinging open, because people want what you're saying to be true. And because people also overwhelmingly, instead of looking in the mirror at the way forward, they look for someone outside of themselves to be a savior to do it for them. So along comes Donald Trump in 2016. He's telling people what they want to hear. He's telling that constituency what it wants to hear. And people are buying it. They're seeing him as the savior. And I saw him as a con man. It was like, to me, he was so transparent, it was unbelievable. And I got a lot of abuse for calling him out. And the same in this year, 2024, the election campaign, he came in early this year. Again, the abuse was off the scale, because I was saying, this guy's a fraud. This guy is not going to do what he says he's going to do. And he's come in, and it's taken only a few months before a lot of people who, in the so-called alternative media, who promoted him to power big time, for them to say, he's not what we thought he was, and he's not doing what we thought he would do. Well, hold on. Some of us saw that in 2016. What took you so long? And we're now in a situation with this central core of the alternative media that gets all the algorithmic promotion and the funding, where some of them are calling for things because Trump is saying he wants to do it, that they have spent, those that have been in the alternative media for long enough, many of them haven't, but they have been calling for things and supporting things that they have been railing against before. And the only difference is Trump says this is what should happen, so they support it. Well, hold on, either it's right or it's not. It doesn't matter whether it's Trump saying it or the left saying it. It's either the right thing to do or it's not. And it's no good saying it's not the right thing to do when the left is saying it or whatever, and then say, oh no, it's the right thing to do now because Trump's saying it. It's unbelievable to me. And you know, if you're a journalist, especially an alternative journalist, then the one thing you must not have is a political side. Because what happens, we've seen it through this Trump era, especially through 2024, 2025, whereby they filter how they present something on the basis of whether their side is saying it or whether the other side is saying it. And so you've got people, take Alex Jones as an example, who is saying now he wants to see the Feds kicking doors down. After railing against the Feds kicking doors down, going way back, where there's support for, he says, for regime change in Venezuela. We might get into why Venezuela and why Greenland later as well. And supporting taking out what are almost certainly fishing boats that do not have the capacity, the fuel capacity to even get to America, that have to get refueled so many times. And a Trump regime that is killing people, not naming who they are, producing no evidence that they're running drugs. And when two people survive an attack, instead of putting them on trial in America for running drugs, they send them back to their home countries in South America. Why? Because they don't want us to know who they really are for obvious reasons. So when I'm seeing the so-called alternative media that's been campaigning in a certain way and against certain things, suddenly now supporting them just because their man says they have to happen, is staggering to me. It's not journalism, and it's certainly not alternative journalism. See, what's happened since COVID is if I'm this global cult, this global network of secret societies with an interlocking mission control that I've been exposing all these decades, if I'm looking at COVID, you just talked about that period, then I would say two things. One, you are seeing people starting to see, thanks to the alternative media, that actually there is some kind of conspiracy going on, and there is some kind of coordination to a particular end going on, because they're seeing that when the COVID card was played, suddenly almost every country in the world, certainly in the Western world, responded the same. It's like so essentially coordinated then. So they were getting their information from the alternative media. So we have to start looking at how we get control of this situation, which we are losing control of. And then number two, you ask, okay, how do we get control of their perceptions? Do we do it by using the mainstream media, as we always have, to get people to see the world the way we want them to see it? Well, no, we can't, because these emerging awakening people, they have absolute contempt for the mainstream media. Of course they do. They would never believe what they're told anymore by the BBC, MSNBC, Fox News. So what are they listening to? Well, obviously they're listening to the alternative media that's kind of emerged. There was no alternative media when I started out. I watched it appear. So what we have to do, they would say, and they did, we've got to get control of that. We've got to get control of the means through which we can get to the perceptions of those that are pushing back. And it's a constituency, a pushback constituency that's getting bigger. We have to get them on board. So what we're going to do is we're going to put people into that arena who are going to come out of the mainstream, and they are going to hijack, through algorithmic support, funding, whatever, that central arena where people are getting their information from, the ones that we really want to take back control of. So you had this influx of people out of the mainstream, and suddenly I'm watching, because I've been doing this a long time, like coming into my 36th year. I'm seeing stuff that was in my books in the 1990s. Now it's breaking news. And if you're kind of relatively new to this whole concept, you will have probably no idea that it was in my books in the 1990s, this stuff. So you do think it's breaking news, and you think these new stars of the alternative media are really breaking new ground, when actually they're repeating stuff that the people have been around for a long time, were pioneers of long ago. And what's happened as a result of that is that the alternative media central core has regressed. Like I say, when I started out, there was no alternative media. There was a few disparate individuals who were trying to get information out as best they could. When I started out, if you were putting an event on, you didn't post something on the internet. Basically, there was no internet worth the name. You stood in the street and handed out leaflets. You know, that's where how far back it goes. But what we kind of, as the alternative media emerged, and I was delighted, more and more the merrier, there was this understanding that we live in one-party states. Actually, I would say, and I make that case in the roadmap, we live in a one-party world ultimately, but we live in one-party states because there is a force in the background. I say it's really much deeper in the background than people realize. But there is a force. Some people call it the deep state. The deep state is just an expression of this force. It's not the force in its original form. But there is a force that works not through one party. It doesn't work through the left, or work through the right, or work through the center. It works through all of them. So you have a situation where the left and the right will use different rhetoric, and they will use different excuses. But when you analyze the outcomes are basically the same. For instance, there's a common outcome now, which is the takeover of human society by artificial intelligence. This is going to take, if we continue to allow this, it's going to take human control onto a level, perceptual control, thought control, emotional response control, onto a level never before seen in known human history. And so you have, for instance, you have the government of the UK, currently headed by Keir Starmer, who is so called of the left, and you have the Trump government of the right, and they're both pushing the AI dystopia agenda, the AI digital dystopia agenda. And what's kind of interesting, once you fall for this this delusion that the two parties are not ultimately controlled by the same force, you fall for the left-right puppet show, the left-right theater, to the point where Trump, in power of the right, uses the left as an excuse to impose tyranny and to impose censorship in many and various ways. In Britain and other countries of the same political persuasion, you have Starmer using the right as the excuse to impose censorship, tyranny, and what we've seen with the extraordinary jailing and prosecuting of people for internet posts. So here you have a wonderful example of Starmer of the left and Trump of the right, but the direction is the same. Why? Because the same force with the same outcome direction agenda is working through both of them. And what's happened to the alternative media, and I say it's been done purposely from the manipulative point of view, is it's regressed from it's a one-party state, same force working through both, to the deep state is the Democrats. The deep state is the left. And so what that has done, and it's happened in Britain of the left, and it's happened in America of the right, it's created this division between right and left. And they're fighting each other, heading towards possibly civil war. And in this country, the same is going on. And yet, if people just symbolically looked up, they'd see the same hand holding the strings of both sides. And so that regression from an understanding of this force working through all sides, as they used to say in America when I first went there in 96 and started talking to nobody in those early days, that people used to say, it doesn't matter who you vote for because the government still gets in. And that's true, that's how it works. And now we're having this left-right regressed view. And if you are a few people, and we're supposed to have about 8 billion people in the world, the number of people in full knowledge who are driving this conspiracy towards global AI digital dystopia is by comparison tiny. How can you possibly have a few people dictating the direction of the lives and the societies of billions? And look back through history, what has always been the common theme of humanity? All the way through history, doesn't matter the culture, it doesn't matter where on earth you're talking about, it doesn't matter the era. The few have always controlled the many. And it's been done through two things. There's two types of people that allow this to happen. One, there's those that obey authority just because they're authority. They believe that authority must know best, and so they don't question what authority tells them. See COVID, I rest my case. Then you have the second group that doesn't want to do what they're told, but they fear the consequences of not doing it, and so they do it. And so that's one level of how the few control the many, through unquestioning obedience and through fear of consequences of not obeying. But there's another level of it, which is age-old, and it's called divide and rule. What you must have if you're the few controlling the many is the many fighting each other. So what you need to do, I'm sure we'll get into this whole area of religion as we go along, you want to divide the target population into rigid, unquestioning belief systems. These systems can be religious, and you want many different versions of religious belief systems because you want to play them off against each other. And you have political belief systems, you have cultural belief systems. And so once you've got all these different belief systems, then you have the situation where you can play them off against each other. You can play left off against right. You cannot play left off against right when left and right both understand that the same force is working through both of them and manipulating both of them. Then you say, hold on a minute, we need to come together here because that is manipulating both of us. No, you want them fighting each other. You want religions fighting each other. And what you get when you have a rigid belief system, it doesn't matter what it is. I've said over the years so many times, this global cult network does not care what you believe so long as you believe it rigidly and without question and to the exclusion of other possibility. So when someone comes along like me and says, I'm going to question everything and see if it stands up to scrutiny, and you find that almost nothing does, all these different belief systems that would normally fight each other are, to a very large extent, unified in their condemnation and ridicule of me, because I'm going to places they won't go because their belief system, whatever it is, will not allow them to go there. So if you take religion, it's estimated that of the 8 billion people they say is in the world, 5.4 billion either self-identify as Christian, as Muslim, or as Hindu. Then you ask yourself, okay, where do most of these belief systems come from? They come from their upbringing and their environment when they grow up. So if you're born in India and within a Hindu family, you're almost certainly going to be a Hindu. If you're born in the Middle East, you're almost certainly going to be a Muslim. And if you're born in the southern states of America particularly, you're almost certainly going to be a Christian. Okay, now take those people and have them born in India. Take the southern states of America Christian and have them born in India. Are they going to be a Christian? No, they're going to be a Muslim. Are they going to be a Hindu? And the same with these others. I remember a long time ago, it was about 1993, my only trip to Israel, and of course they would not let me in now. It was a bit of a struggle then, to be honest. And I remember standing next to, on what the Christians and Jewish people call Temple Mount, where the big mosque is, the big golden dome. And there were these Muslim kids playing football, only little kids. And I watched them for a bit, and the old city of Jerusalem, within that city wall, it's very small, but it's divided into 4 quarters. There's an Armenian quarter, a Christian quarter, a Jewish quarter, and a Muslim quarter. And it occurred to me as I was watching these kids playing football that literally in the old city of Jerusalem, if those kids had been born down the street in the Christian quarter or the Jewish quarter, at the same age, they'd have a very different view of reality, the world, themselves, and their beliefs. And so what you do, and I go into this in the roadmap at some length at one point, because it's so important. People overwhelmingly do not form their belief systems. Some do. They don't form their religious belief systems overwhelmingly from making a choice and looking at the possibilities. They are programmed by their environment and their upbringing and the culture and the religious system that they are born into. And what happens when you have a belief system that is rigid and unquestioning? It's a prison of the mind, because you have a limit to where you can go, what you can explore, questions you can ask, because you have to stay within the belief system of your religion, and I'll widen the definition of religion in a sec, because if you step out in any direction, you are no longer a follower of that religion. You are a blasphemer in whatever form. And what that does is create, and political belief systems are the same, it creates a prison of the mind, a prison cell which you will not expand out of. So when you think that our visual capacity, what we can see, is a ridiculously, unbelievably, ridiculously narrow band of frequency called visible light. That's all we can see. It's tiny. Everything else in the space that we are currently experiencing, we can't see. And yet, from that perspective, we can come to rigid, unquestioning conclusions of what reality is, who we are, what the world is, and so on. And there is infinity beyond the myopia of unquestioned belief, waiting to be explored, waiting to be understood. But you can't go there, otherwise you're outside the parameters of your religion. And like I say, religion, as I talk about in the roadmap, religion is a mentality. It's not, as my father called it, it's not just confined to bricks and mortar religion, churches and synagogues and mosques and temples. It's a mentality. And I find it supremely ironic that orthodox science condemns religion and ridicules religion often, when it itself is a religion. It's the religious mentality. What does a religion have? It has a story. It has its dogma. It has its own holy book, whether it's the Bible or the Quran or whatever. And it has a limit of where it will go, because it's no longer that religion if it goes any further. Now look at science. Science, orthodoxy, has a dogmatic view of the world. It has its holy books, which are the scientific orthodoxy books. And if you are a scientist and you want to explore beyond the walls of orthodoxy, scientific orthodoxy, then you are a pseudo-scientist. And, Bill's gone a bit crazy, because you are exploring beyond the confines of orthodox science. And you look at the history of orthodox science, And every single dogma at every single point, eventually science, orthodox science, has had to be pulled kicking and screaming into an understanding which they not long before ridiculed, condemned, and even through religion burned people at the stake for having that, for that view. And then you look at human-caused climate change. It's a religion. It has a dogma. You must not question the dogma, because if you question the dogma, you are a blasphemer in their terms. And everywhere you look, you see these rigid belief systems which will not explore beyond them. And then this cult, which has created this society of belief systems. Like I say, they couldn't care less what you believe so long as it's rigid and unquestioning. They then play the belief systems off against each other. They play religion off against orthodox science. They play this religion off against this religion. They play the right off against the left. And so it goes on. And what I've been trying to get across all these years is we're all being shafted by the same force. And that force is actually ultimately coming from another dimension of reality. And if we go on not only having rigid belief systems, there's nothing wrong with having a belief. It's like, okay, this is the way I see the world now. This is the way I see it. But I've got me spikes on, I've got me trainers on, I'm fluid, I'll go where the information takes me. Because I know, as Socrates is supposed to have said, the ancient Greek philosopher, and it's something I've always worked on, that same way of looking at the world. Wisdom is knowing how little we know. To know is to know you know nothing. That's the secret of true knowledge. And what that does is, whatever you think you know, and like I say, I've worked on this principle all these decades. Whatever you think you know, the one thing you know above all else is there's always more to know. And so what happens is you get to a point and you say, okay, I think I got this. I think I know, I think I understand this level of it. But what don't I know? And so what that does, it constantly drives you deeper and deeper and deeper in the rabbit hole. Because, okay, I know this now, okay, but what don't I know? And that, I can tell you from experience, takes you way beyond Trump or Harris or Starmer or Farage or whoever. It takes you into very far out areas when you keep asking that question, okay, so what don't I know? But what these belief systems do is stop you going there. And, you know, if you are choosing to go there, and this is my experience over the last 30 odd years, then you've got to realize and not complain. You've got to realize that rigid belief systems in all their different forms are going to ridicule and abuse you when you will go where they will not go. And so I'm at peace with that. But if we look at this situation and ask, so what can we do? Well, you know, what you can do is you can look for a solution to a problem. And if you look for a solution, how many solutions, apparent claimed solutions, lead to more problems in need of more solutions? That's the round and round you go. For me, I'm not looking for solutions. I'm looking for causes. I want to know what's causing the problem, because if you remove the cause, by definition, the problem must disappear. If you're looking for a solution, you just create more problems. So what's the cause of the problem? The cause of the problem is people, and this is how the few have always controlled the many. People fall for rigid belief systems which they will not let go or explore beyond them. And then they're played off against each other. That's the cause of the problem. So what's the answer? How do you remove the cause? Well, first of all, you have a bit of humility and you realize that whatever you think you know, I don't care if it's Christianity or Islam or whatever it is, I don't care if it's orthodox science, know that there's always more to know. And if you imprison yourself by not realizing that, then nothing's going to change, because that's how we got here. And if we can just find peace in other people having a different view of the world to us, and we can debate what we think and they think or whatever, without shutting it out by reflex action, then we can start to break up this extraordinary human trait, and it's been manipulated and programmed over thousands of years, that believes that it has the truth. So a Muslim will think, I've got the truth. A Christian will think, I've got the truth. A Hindu will think, I've got the truth. Orthodox science will say, I've got the truth. Right will say, I've got the truth. Left will say, I've got the truth. Well, no one has. I haven't. And when people say, I got it now, no, you haven't. You might have got a bit more of it, but you haven't got it because it is absolutely vast. What we need to do is to have the humility to realize that whatever we think we know, there's always more to know. And when you start to explore beyond the confines of rigid belief, you find that the world is a very, very different place to what you thought it was.
David, you mentioned AI a lot now in the last few years, and it's a part of the roadmap as well. Recently on one of your videos, you called out Sam Altman and Mark Andreessen and Peter Thiel and Elon Musk. What do you see as the end game here? And as normal people listening today, what do we need to keep our eye on when it comes to AI? Or is it too late?
Well, it's Larry Ellison as well, of course, who's not only is fundamentally promoting the AI digital agenda, but he's also buying up the media on a ridiculous scale. And Larry Ellison is the biggest private funder of the Israeli Defense Forces. I don't think I want him controlling my media, if I'm absolutely honest. Okay, so I've had this phrase I've used over the years: know the outcome and you'll see the journey. If you look at the world without knowing the outcome, the planned outcome, doesn't have to happen. There's 8 billion of us. We don't have to let it happen. But for reasons I've explained, we're allowing it to happen. If you don't know the outcome, then the world looks to be a mass of random events. Why is this happening? Why do they do it that way when it's obviously better if they did it this way? Better for people. Well, no, it's not the idea. Better for people is not the idea. That's the point. But when you know what the outcome is planned to be, suddenly these random events that happen all the time, every day, become very clear stepping stones to that outcome, what I call the totalitarian tiptoe. And so what's the outcome? Well, we can maybe go deeper into this, but as we go along, but there is a force ultimately operating from another dimension that wants to entrap us in this reality, which is a simulated reality. It's the equivalent of a virtual reality game. And what's extraordinary to me as I watch this unfolding technological explosion is how it's mirroring the very reality that we're experiencing. So what we can maybe get into that later, but the crucial foundation of keeping us in this fake reality is to because we are not human. We are having a brief experience called human. What we are is the consciousness having that experience. And if you want to keep that consciousness entrapped, you've got to control its perception so that it sees this reality as something that it's not. Like, you think this reality is real, you think this reality is a solid reality of materialism. Actually, as Einstein said, what we call material reality is just energy that's operating on a low frequency. That's what we call the material world. It's actually nothing like we're experiencing it. That's the foundation of the conspiracy of human control. Is not Trump or Harris. It's living in a reality that is nothing like we think it is. And if you want to keep consciousness entrapped through a perception of this is real, then you have to stop that awareness expanding into levels of perception, insight, understanding, knowledge, knowing that is beyond this simulation. You have to keep people's attention within this fake reality. You do it by many of the means I've already talked about, by programming them through their lives with a myopic view of themselves, of the world they live in, of life and world events, so that our attention is held within the fake reality. You don't want them getting to a point where they're pulling back from seeing the world as they're supposed to see it and allowing their mind to expand into other levels of reality where you get insight, knowing, understanding, knowledge, inspiration. Now, they've done this focusing of the attention of people through belief systems, etc., through the control of information. Because there's so many levels to this to research and understand before the totality of it can be seen. But this is mainstream science, every time we think and have an emotional response, we are generating a frequency. We're generating an energetic field. And the frequency relates to the nature of the thought and the nature of the emotional reaction. So if you are in a state of fear and anxiety, and you are in a state of depression or resentment or regret or hatred or conflict, these are low, slow, dense frequencies. When you're in a state of joy and happiness and expanded awareness and these higher emotional responses. These are higher frequencies. They don't want us in the higher frequencies, they want us in the lower frequencies, which is why they're constantly giving us reasons to fall into those lower frequencies. And they are manipulating our perceptions through control of information. This is what censorship is about. It's not a bit of fun. Censorship is there to stop information that would get people to expand their awareness and see the world in a much more expanded way, and give them overwhelmingly only that which will keep them in a sense of the world and seeing the world the way this cult wants them to see it. So up to this point, it's been control of information, and religion's been a massive part of that, to keep people in these states of submission, these states of obeying a religion, obeying whatever, political leaders, whatever. And that's the way it's been done, through control of information. The outcome, which relates to AI and the digital agenda, is to go to the next stage of that. It's to connect the human brain body to artificial intelligence, so that artificial intelligence gives you your thoughts and your emotional responses directly. Suddenly, you're not emotionally responding, you're not thinking your thoughts on the basis of you. AI is thinking for you. You may think it's you, but AI is delivering your perceptions. AI is delivering your emotional responses. So how do you create this, what would become and is becoming a hive mind? A hive mind where everyone is connected to the same source of information, the same source of AI. Well, what you need is a delivery system, and you need a receiver system. And the delivery system is the technologically generated electromagnetic field that's coming out of the 5G towers and the 6G and 7G to come. And crucially, because you can't bathe the entire planet in this electromagnetic field, this hive mind field, purely with towers, you need low orbit satellites. And so what you've got is your Elon Musk and SpaceX putting up these thousands of low orbit satellites. Jeff Bezos is coming along now with his system. And the idea is to create a technologically generated electromagnetic field that encompasses the planet, which we're all living amongst, and will deliver the hive mind. And this is why they want a connection between what they call people like Ray Kurzweil, the Google executive, who's said, well, many years ago now, that by 2030, a big key year for these people, humans will be connected to the cloud. And in his words, connected, in other words, to AI.
And there'll be a singularity in that year.
And in Kurzweil's words, and more people are coming along and saying the same now, once that connection to artificial intelligence is there, to the human brain body, in his words, artificial intelligence will do more and more of human thinking until human thinking is negligible. What he means is deleted. And what you're then looking at are humans becoming like a terminal on someone else's internet, like a computer terminal on someone else's internet, in which their perceptions are coming direct. And they may think they're thinking their own thoughts, but actually AI is thinking for them. And so if you look at how information is delivered, it's delivered through electromagnetic fields. And in the roadmap, I quote a Chinese whistleblower, actually from some time ago now, who was saying that in China, they've already perfected the means to deliver information through a technologically generated electromagnetic field to the human brain, so that the person starts to respond, believing it's their own thoughts, to what is actually being delivered to them in the form of information. So it is possible through an electromagnetic field to deliver, because the human body has its own electromagnetic field. We call it the auric field. And if you can sync the electromagnetic field generated from towers and satellites with the human electromagnetic field, you can pass information through it. And people think, like I say, it's their own thoughts. But how much better if you also had inside the body and brain a receiver system? I give you the COVID fake vaccine. I've been in touch with a lot of people around the world over the last few years who've been looking through electron microscopes, etc., at the systems in the blood of people who have been fake vaccinated. I say fake vaccinated because the COVID fake vaccine was not a vaccine according to previous criteria. And they're seeing these nano systems self-replicating in the body. And obviously, a lot of people, since they've had the fake vaccine, their bodies have not been able to transform enough, and they've dropped dead. I mean, the numbers of people that have died from this fake vaccine is off the frickin' charts. You wouldn't think so looking at the mainstream media, unless someone famous drops over, like a young sportsman or something, and many have. It's not highlighted in any way. But you talk to people, and the number of people you talk to who've either had experience in their families or know people in their workplace who've young people who've just died of heart attacks or cancers, fast-acting turbo cancers as they call them, is off the frickin' charts. And the number of people who've said to me, I've never been the same since I had the fake vaccine. And so what you're seeing unfolding in this nanotechnology in the body is the receiver system. That's why people are pointing out who've investigated this as a speciality, that this nanotechnology is getting in the brain. Now, how does the brain, how does it process information? It processes it electrically, and it processes it electromagnetically. And if you can get the nanotechnology in the brain, it's receiving the electromagnetic field information, and suddenly you've got a hive mind unfolding. And that's what's happening. And the digital side of this is the other side of the control system, where if you have a digital ID, you cannot take part in mainstream society without the digital ID. That's the idea in the end.
Which was just proposed by the Prime Minister here.
Just proposed by Keir Starmer.
Right, with the reason being illegal immigration, which I would love to get into.
Yeah, well, what's kind of interesting, you know, because
Problem, reaction, solution.
I do say, I've said over the years many times, this cult plays the long game. And I also came up with this phrase, problem, reaction, solution. You create the problem, blame someone else for it, and then openly offer the solution to the problems you have covertly created. And immigration went off the charts under Tony Blair when he was Prime Minister. In fact, some years after he left office, someone who was in that group came out and said the plan was to open the doors to immigration to such an extent, these were his words, that Britain was culturally changed in a way that was irreversible. Okay? Who's been the big promoter now of digital ID to meet the problem of immigration? Tony Blair, the man who's actually the handler of Keir Starmer. So they play the long game. They create the problem, and then they come out and say, here's the solution to the problem, which just advances the agenda. And so the digital ID is connected to the digital currency, the central bank digital currencies. And the key thing about digital currencies is they are programmable. Programmable so that from a central point you can dictate what people can buy, what the digital currency will work to buy and what it won't work to buy. So you're dictating now what people can buy, like my books, for instance. Do you think they might just disappear?
Also based on your behavior and future behavior.
Exactly. And also programmable in an area that they will operate within, and outside of it they won't. So if you want to create, which is now a big thing that's becoming more and more obvious, more and more people are becoming aware of it, this 15-minute city isolation zoning of people, so that everything they say will be, this has come from people like the World Economic Forum, but it's much wider now. Everything that you need, they say, will be within a 15-minute cycle ride or walk from your home. And all these cameras that are going up all over the cities, like in London, they're for various excuses, like various zones. If you enter them, then you get fined if you've got the wrong vehicle, or the congestion charge and all that stuff. All these cameras, number plate cameras, the longer term reason for them is to police these zones which people are kept in. Now, what better way of keeping them in a zone than their currency will not work if you leave the zone? How are you going to buy anything even if you do leave the zone? And this programmable money is the most fundamental deletion, potentially, of freedom. And I said for so many years, back into the 1990s, if you want to see what's planned for the West tomorrow, look at China today. And in China, you have millions of cameras in the cities. They can find you in literally minutes, wherever you are. These, facial recognition cameras, etc. And they have this social credit system. So you get points if you behave in ways that suit the government. You lose points, credits, if you behave in ways that doesn't suit the government. And if you lose enough credits, then you are excluded from mainstream society. What happened during COVID to people that wouldn't have the jab and refused to wear masks? They were excluded from mainstream society. Exactly. That was a pre-run in so many ways of where they want society to go. If you didn't like COVID, well, you're not going to like what's planned coming up. So in China, if you lose enough credits, you can't go on a train, you can't get on a plane, you cannot function in a mainstream society. And this whole social credit system is moving very fast into the West. The digital ID, the digital currency, the control by AI, the control of everything via AI. You're seeing some supermarkets being introduced now where you need a QR code to go in. But what if you don't have a smartphone? What if you don't want to be part of that system? Well, you don't get in the supermarket then.
You pay with your fingerprint too.
Yeah, of course you can. It's the same thing. It's all this unfolding control system. So let's put it together. They want to connect artificial intelligence and this cloud hive mind to the human brain, so that they control your thoughts and they control your emotional responses. They make you, for instance, docile. Does anyone think that you're going to ask the big questions like, who am I? What is this place? Who really controls the world and to what end? What am I part of? Do you think AI is gonna give you that perception and those questions? Not a chance. The idea is that you become docile and subordinate and you simply obey. You become an automaton. That's the idea. And
you have to obey because you're being provided for, right? You don't have to work anymore. That's what I hear from the AI titans.
Well,
that we're never gonna have to work again.
Well, I keep posting in response to Elon Musk posts on X, where he's promoting AI. You remember he said AI could be the end of humanity. I keep posting selling dystopia one lie at a time, because that's what he's doing. That's what they're all doing. What they're telling you is that it's going to be fantastic. AI is going to do, robots are going to do all the work. And you'll have Elon Musk, you'll have a very high guaranteed income, be great. The idea of the guaranteed income is not to be high, it's to be a relative pittance in which everyone is at the same level. Through digital programmable money, they will also have a system, this is all in the plan, that you have to spend your guaranteed income before a certain point or it's deleted. And what they don't want people doing in this brave new world is building up any savings which give them choice. All the billionaires can have the savings, the people running the system can have the savings, but not the general population. And this is what they're doing. AI and billions of robots, Elon Musk says, are going to run the system, and they're going to take all the jobs. They are taking the jobs. And the more sophisticated AI becomes, the more jobs it will be able to take. So they're taking the jobs away. What they're doing in America, because Trump's been put in there as a wrecking ball, he's wrecking the economy and bringing people to their knees, more and more people. Just talk to the farmers of America for a start. You got Starmer and other people of his like around the world destroying their economies. They're imploding the current system. Because if you want, in Schwab's words, Klaus Schwab's words at the World Economic Forum, as he was, a great reset, then you have to destroy the status quo. While your status quo, whatever it is in place, it will stop any other system replacing it because it's there. You have to destroy the status quo, it's called creative destruction, so that another status quo can come in. So, for instance, the First World War destroyed on purpose, this was a Cold War, the status quo. And the world was very different in 1918, 19 than it was before. You then had another war not long afterwards, and after the Second World War, you had the Bretton Woods Agreement and the creation of all these, the United Nations, all these centralized global bodies, and the world was very different. What you could say is the wars were creative destruction and a new status quo was introduced. Well, this is what a great reset is. So you need your wrecking balls like Trump and others, Starmer, to wreck the status quo so that you can replace it with another. And the status quo it's planned to be replaced with is this AI dystopia. So you take the jobs away, and this is why Elon Musk is so in favor of the guaranteed income, the universal guaranteed income. I've been warning since way back that this was coming, and that when they have everyone on a guaranteed universal guaranteed income pittance, you will only get it if you're a good little boy or girl. If you buck the system and challenge the system and talk about the unfairness and the injustice of the system, well, there's your guaranteed income gone.
And digital ID is linked to your social media, to your behavior.
Exactly. If people could only see the incremental way, and getting faster and faster, that this is being brought in. And so the guaranteed income is not meant to be massive, gives you all this choice. It's meant to be a pittance that you just about survive on, because what they'll say is, because they're nice people, you know, AI's taking all these jobs, and we've got to do something to help people because we care. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you this universal basic income, and then you put food on the table. But anything that you depend upon controls you. If you're dependent on the state controls you. If you're dependent on somebody, that somebody controls you. And so a universal basic income, along with the digital currency, the digital ID, the connection of the human brain to artificial intelligence, is a monumental, interconnected control system, like I say, the like of which we have never seen in known human history. And I'll say that year again that Kurzweil talks about, 2030. Note, you've got the UN Agenda 2030. The 2030 comes up again and again and again. And we're now in 2025, and we're coming to the end of it. We're a few years away from this pivotal year of 2020, and everything is getting faster. The destruction of the status quo is getting faster, and the AI-controlled dystopia coming in to replace it is getting faster and faster. So when Trump was coming in, what I was saying throughout 2024, actually before, but throughout 2024, when he was running his campaign, is that this guy is coming in to hijack the pushbacker mentality, which people call MAGA in America, that previously has been skeptical of the whole AI agenda. And the idea is to have Trump tell them what they want to hear, and come to power, and then drive the AI control agenda in the United States and further afield, actually. And he came in 2 days after he took office. He was in the Oval Office with Larry Ellison of the Oracle organization and Sam Altman of OpenAI, announcing an up to $500 billion AI program called Stargate. The White House then produced a document saying we are going to globally in America drive the AI agenda because we mustn't let China win the AI race. So they've now turned it into like a sporting event. We must do it first, and they're saying we must do it first. What's the outcome? Both cases, the AI agenda comes in, and so the idea has been to pull that MAGA mentality into accepting and even supporting the AI digital agenda.
Which is the opposite of what you'd expect from a populist, blue-collar, middle-class person. But now that's been hijacked with MAGA, and now it's pro-AI.
Yeah. If you look, I mean, I traveled America a lot, and I met a lot of the people that are now called MAGA over the years. And, you know, there's many, many things I don't agree with them on. I don't agree with them on religion. I don't agree with them on lots of things. But they were demanding freedom of speech, and they were very, very skeptical of billionaires and the whole AI agenda.
And political parties.
Yeah, and they realized, going back to the 90s now, that it doesn't matter who you vote for, the government still gets in. What I've seen is, not all of them, because a lot of them have drifted away when they've seen what Trump has done, but a lot of them are now speaking a totally different language. You know, it's like Elon Musk is the hero, and therefore we can trust him with AI. And look at the people that were at the Trump inauguration, and look at the wagons that have circled around him. They are invariably tech billionaires.
Yeah, with monopolies.
Yeah, they are Peter Thiel at Palantir. Palantir was a seed funded by the CIA company that works globally with intelligence agencies and the military and governments on data tracking and surveillance, among other things. And Trump has taken Palantir to produce what they have always done is keep data sections apart from each other. So there's no central data record which you can go into and get to know everything about everybody. Now he's started Palantir, or contracted Palantir, to do exactly that. And they Palantir have worked with the Israeli government on targeting people in Gaza. They're nice people. You've got Mark Andreessen, another tech billionaire who's very much connected to the Israeli government. And you've got many of these people. You've got David Sachs. I talk about David Sachs and I talk about the PayPal mafia in the roadmap and how they all have this connection to South Africa at the time of apartheid. What? And they then will move to America, Musk among them, and became what's known as the PayPal mafia. David Sachs is a tech billionaire, an investment billionaire, and Trump named him as his AI crypto czar to run the crypto agenda and to run the AI agenda. And all these people are around him. He is just a puppet, Trump. He's got plenty of mouth, but he's a puppet. He's just being manipulated by people around him, controlled by people around him, and he's very, very willing for that to happen. But basically, the tech networks, the billionaire tech networks, are running the show. And while you've got this pantomime going on with Trump, because if you look at a magician, while they're doing a trick with the right hand, they want you looking over here, right? So while this AI agenda, this digital agenda is being driven on faster and faster, not just in the United States, but worldwide, in America and wider afield, you've got the focus on the drama of Trump. What's Trump done today? What's Trump said today? And everything's focused on him, while these tech billionaires are driving forward their dystopia agenda. And you know, America has to beat China in the race for AI. Do you know there's about 46,000 papers that have been produced on AI in which Americans and Chinese people have collaborated? Why would they do that if we're trying to win a race? And something else I've been trying to get across over the years is this global cult, this global network of secret societies with an interlocking leadership and fiercely compartmentalized, so most people within it don't know the real agenda. It doesn't have borders. Borders are for public consumption. They're to make you believe you live in this country, which is run by these people, and you live in that country that's run by these people. And this is why I said earlier, it's in the end, it's a one-party world. When there is a force that's working through all of them, and the key people in all of them. So in the end, the idea is for the world to be controlled by this AI dystopia system. It's not meant for China to win the AI race or America to win the AI race. It's meant for the AI race to lead to a complete global control system in which eventually every man, woman and child will be under the control of this AI system and this AI generated, technologically generated cloud hive mind. That's the idea. And this is why I've been shaking my head in some despair at the way the alternative media, main thrust of it, which has been taken over by mainstream people that have come in overwhelmingly since COVID, the way it has focused attention on the myopia of politics and, to an extent, finance. It's focused on the myopia of that level of the conspiracy. And that is not where it comes from. That's one level on which the conspiracy plays out. It's not where it comes from. But what they want you focused upon is that is the conspiracy. And if you look at that level, there are no answers. There's no answers to at that level of the conspiracy, because, okay, so what do we do? Well, if this political party does this and we don't like it, well, you vote for the other one. Okay. So what happens when that one doesn't do what it says it would do and actually seems to be doing what that one did? How do you get rid of that party? Well, you have to go back to that one. And how do you get rid of that one? Well, you go back to that one. Left, right, left, right, left, right. Yes, sir. And there's no answers there. The answers come when you realize the nature and the scale of the conspiracy. That's where the answers lie. And also when you say to yourself, there's 8 billion people in the world, so we're told. How are a few running it? And how easy it will be for the few to run it once the AI system's in place. That's the idea. It becomes a self-regulating, self-running system then. But how have a few always controlled the many? And then we're back to what we talked about earlier. The problem, the cause, is people's myopic belief systems, which are then played off against each other. And what we've seen with the alternative media takeover, hijack, I say, is the regression into puppet show politics. And while everyone's focused on that, what's Trump said today? The big agenda rolls out.
Right. And
before we realize it, it will be a done deal. We're now in this situation in Britain where Starmer is saying, and his government is saying, that if you don't have a digital ID, eventually you won't be able to work, right? You've got to have a digital ID to work. And so you say to yourself, okay, if you look at the digital ID, why is it being introduced in country after country? And if you're looking at the digital currency, why is there a digital ruble? I thought, isn't Putin against the system? No, he's not. You've got digital ruble. You've got the EU bringing in a digital currency. You've got Trump who says, well, this is the point, the central bank digital currency. MAGA, massively against it, right? Doesn't want it. Quite right. So Trump goes, oh, well, okay. So what I have to do is play to me base a bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an executive order, swish of the pen, law of the land, democracy. And I'm going to say America will never have a digital currency, a central bank digital currency. And then you've got his Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, who's a big force in that government, very much involved in and Trump supporting stable coins, digital currency, and it's programmable. It's programmable. And if it's programmable, it's part of the system. And so then you ask the question, well, why is the same thing happening everywhere? Well, didn't COVID response happen virtually everywhere? Oh yeah, right. So do you think there might be a global force that's manipulating all this, that wants you to think that ultimately China and America are a kind of at war with each other, economically or wherever, when actually they all answer to this same force? What do you think? And that's what we're facing. We have this global cult that operates in every country. It's been around a long time, gaining more and more power. It controls governments, it controls parties that have any chance of forming a government, many who don't, many as well as don't. And that's why the world is heading in the same direction all over the world. It's because it's a one-party world. And the alternative media is focusing on the puppet show, exactly what the cult wants. And you don't have to have people, I mean, there will be some that will come into like the alternative media that know exactly what they're doing. But you don't need many of them. All you do is pick your people who have a certain mentality. They might have the Christian mentality, they might have the right-wing mentality, they might see politics as the way forward, and you just promote the hell out of them. You promote the hell out of them with algorithms, with funding, and what have you, and they'll just go and do what you want, and they'll focus attention on the myopic. Not because they are trying to manipulate anybody necessarily, some will be doing that, but because that's the way they think, that's the way they see the world.
One thing they're focusing on lately are these Epstein files. And inside there, you also see these tech billionaires, the Bill Gates, the Reid Hoffman, Clinton, all these people associated with it. What do you see when that becomes the focus? What is the myopic view of what's going on? And then what is, in your opinion, that bigger picture?
Whoa, well, let's get into that. On one level, it is a diversion of attention, but there is very good reason for that attention to be focused on the Epstein files. Because like Jimmy Savile, Epstein is a gateway to the cesspit. And you can get into the cesspit via Epstein as you can get into it via Jimmy Savile, the mega pedophile, big-time friend of now King Charles and the royal family and the Queen, since the 1960s, when the pedophile Lord Mountbatten brought him into the inner circle of the royal family. So there's that level of it, but there's another level which I think is absolutely worth talking about. In the early 90s, when I started uncovering the existence of this global cult and how it was manipulating human society in the direction that it's gone, as I researched these people, I was finding a common theme. One was pedophilia, and the other was Satanism, right? So, what? Why? And then you look at history, and what we call history anyway, and you see that these satanic rituals that these people are involved in today, like human sacrifice rituals, the ritual sacrifice of kids, they were being done openly in the ancient world by cultures all over the planet. They were doing human sacrifice rituals. There's a gift to the gods, right? And it's like I said earlier, you don't stop at any point. You say, what don't I know? So I wanted to know what the hell of this was all about. And you know what's kind of funny, and I think very indicative of the way reality works, is when you start to ask big questions, what tends to happen is the answers start coming into your life in some form of synchronicity. Because actually, if you get deeper into the way the whole thing works, you're drawing them in. It's like a magnetic attraction. You're putting out the question and you really want to know the answer. And suddenly people come into your life and information comes into your life that are actually providing the answers. People should try it because it works. But most people don't ask the big questions. So where this led me, and so many other things led me to, is the realization that there is another dimension of reality which people call the astral dimension. That, you know, people tend to, when they're talking about heaven or whatever, they look up, right? Well, it's not like that. It's like frequencies sharing the same space. You know, like the analog radio television stations share the same space, but they don't interfere with each other unless they're really close on the dial, because they're on different wavelengths. And you can share the same space if you're on a different wavelength. And all these other dimensions are actually in the space that we're looking at now, or we're sitting in now. And this astral dimension is the one closest to this human realm. And I started to understand, this a long time ago now, that there are entities in this astral realm that are manipulating human society through this global cult. And this global cult, wherever you look at it, it's inner circle and beyond inner circle levels too, you're looking at Satanism and you're looking at pedophilia. And so when I hear people say the Epstein network was the biggest pedophile ring in history, nonsense. It was a blackmail operation on behalf of Israel and the CIA, but the scale of global pedophilia and global Satanism is absolutely massive. But it's done openly before, sacrificing to the gods. Now, because humanity has reached a level of maturity where it won't have that, it's all done secretly. But that's the connection. So I've talked to Satanists all over the world, many of which have been involved against their will. And they'll tell you how during these major satanic rituals, what they're doing is interacting with these entities, these, quote, gods, not gods at all, but perceived gods. And so then you look at the so-called pantheons of gods, like the Greek pantheon, Zeus and what have you. Well, when you actually do the research, you find that these pantheons of gods are all over the world under different names. I mentioned them in the book, the global, through history, pantheons of gods. And what you realize in the end is that these gods that the ancients were doing human sacrifice rituals to are the same bloody gods that these people today are doing human sacrifice rituals to. They just use different names in different cultures, but they're the same entities. That's the point. And you then ask the question, why? Okay, what do the gods get out of human sacrifice? And then you come across a big, big penny drop. which answers the question both why that happens, and why it's always happened, and why is this a fake simulated reality to entrap human perception in a fake reality that we believe is real? It's because these entities are feeding off human energy. And they're feeding off a particular type of human energy, which is that low vibrational energy that relates to fear, anxiety, depression, hatred, conflict, resentment, regret, all of these things, which provides a profound understanding. The world is as it is and is manipulated to be what it is because it's meant to generate that energy. These entities that have created this fake reality do not want you in a place of joy, of happiness, of peace, because it's not the energy that they feed off. They are low vibrational entities and they need low vibrational energy to absorb, because high vibrational energy is no good to them. So then you ask the question, okay, and I explain in the book the roadmap about projects that have taken place. Like there was a guy called Robert Monroe who established the Monroe Institute, and what Robert Monroe did was popularize what's called astral traveling. You have near-death experiences when the body dies and people find themselves in another reality. And then the body's revived and they find themselves back here. And it's amazing the common themes that are described by people in that out-of-body state. But astral traveling is when the body is very much alive, but you project your consciousness into this astral dimension. And Robert Monroe became so skilled at it that the military, the American military, got involved. And a few years ago now, the CIA declassified a report on what was called the Gateway Project, the Gateway Study. And what the US military did was get together Monroe and other people who were skilled at projecting their consciousness into the astral dimension as part of this gateway study to find out what they experienced, etc., reality. And Robert Monroe said that one of the things he learned in these astral travel experiences was that there were entities in the astral dimension that are feeding off human energy, this low vibrational energy. He called it loosh, gave it the name loosh. The other thing was that, and this is in the US military report, that so many of the people used in the Gateway study who projected into the astral, they saw so many reptilian entities in the astral, exactly where I say they are, and have done for so long, that they gave them a name in the study. They called them the alligators, and that they were feeding off human energy. Now, let's bring it back to what do the gods get out of human sacrifice? Human low vibrational energy. Why were they doing human sacrifices to the gods in the ancient world? What were the gods getting out of it? Why are they doing it now, today? In some of my earlier books, I've named people that were involved. And it's because these rituals, these satanic rituals, they are designed to, understandably, trigger enormous terror in the victim. And terror is a very, very powerful low vibrational energy. And these astral entities who oversee from the astral dimension, in the same space as this one, these human sacrifice rituals, as that terror is generated, they're feeding off it. This is the gift that the rituals give them. They're feeding off this terror. Because, like I said earlier, every time we think and every time we have an emotional response, we are generating frequencies that relate to that mental or emotional state. So when you are in a state of terror, that frequency of terror goes off and can be absorbed. So if you were in an emotional state now, I would see from your facial expression and from your body language what state of emotion you were in. What I would not see with invisible light is the energy you're giving off as a result. Why? Because that's an astral phenomenon. That energy you're giving off in these emotional states is going into the astral. And these entities in the astral are feeding off it. So the more fear, terror, despair, all these low vibrational states there are in the world, the more loosh humans are giving off and these entities are absorbing. And, you know, I've traveled, I'm sure you have too, I've traveled to a lot of countries in my life. Not so many now because I'm banned from so many, but and most of the human race is not having a good time. In places like Africa and South America, Central America, Asia, lots of people in the West now, and for a long time back, are not having a good time. And what are they giving off? They're giving off this low vibrational energy. So the more despair, fear, worry, anxiety you can generate through the circumstances you create, the more loosh is being generated. And so these rituals are to use the victim to generate this terror, this really powerful terror, which these entities can absorb. And what happens when you're in that state of terror is an adrenaline enters the blood as a result of it. And that's what the Satanists in this reality, that's what they drink. And this is where adrenochrome comes from, which has become widely talked about in places like Washington and what goes on there. But it's much wider afield than that, global. And so you can only really start to see why when you expand your understanding of reality itself, and you can then realize that this is not about Trump or Harris. That's one way it plays out, and it's one way your focus is kept in a myopic state. The real level of the conspiracy, which I've been trying to get across all these years, is that the very reality that we're experiencing is a fake reality designed to enslave our perceptions in a low vibrational state, so we become, as Morpheus in the Matrix said in that famous statement when he held up a battery And he said, the Matrix, the simulation, is a computer-generated dream world designed to turn humans into one of these, a source of energy. And that's where we're at. And the more division, the more conflict they can generate, we're back to where we started, the more loosh is generated by humans in that conflict.
Right now I'm thinking about the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and I'm thinking of the loosh and the low energy and the terror that was being felt. I was terrified when I saw that. As a matter of fact, that hit me more than Trump getting shot, because for some reason he was I don't know, Charlie was a civilian.
I have a few questions about Trump getting shot, but anyway, let's carry on.
What do you make of that Charlie Kirk assassination? That, not just what happened, but the reaction and the aftermath?
Well, you know, what I say to people is, look at the outcome. What's the outcome? And one of the key outcomes of the Charlie Kirk killing was to exacerbate the left-right division. Yeah. And Trump and his pathetic cabinet was straight off the blocks immediately, and his gophers in the FBI, Patel and Bongino, straight off the blocks. Alex Jones was straight off the blocks, to be fair. It's transgender left, that's who did it. Right, okay, so well, that suits the agenda, Alex, doesn't it, mate? Because they want this division between left and bloody right. And so there are obviously enormous questions about it, and the official story largely makes no sense. But what it did do was exacerbate that division, that left-right division. And of course, there were people who lost their jobs because they had a view of the assassination or the murder that wasn't within the right's view of what that response should be. But, you know, when you're talking about the generation of loosh, how much has been generated in Gaza since October the 7th? How many was generated during the First World War and the Second World War and the Ukraine invasion and all these other wars that go on incessantly around the world through the centuries? It's extraordinary, the number of wars that there are. And all of them create this loosh, not just from the participants, but the people at home terrified that their husband or wife is not going to come home, and the kids who are terrified that their dad or their mum is not going to come home. It's an absolute loosh banquet, a war. And so, because everything connects into everything else eventually. So, the few have always controlled the many. So what if the few instigated the many to do over and over and over and over and over again throughout human history? Go to war. Fantastic loosh creation, wars. So let's just play that across what I said earlier about 8 billion people being controlled by the few. How can that happen? You have a leader connected to the cult who says, we're going to go to war with this country. And all the people that go to war are overwhelmingly the people that are not winners in society. They're bits of kids. Look at Vietnam, look at all of it. They're the losers in society. The people that society has ignored. And over here, we have another leader connected to the cult. And he says to his people, we're going to go to war with them. And, you know, all you've got to do to start a war is have someone attack someone, and then the other group, war, army, country, seeks to defend itself from the attack. War. Easiest thing in the world. And he is telling his people, who are also largely losers in society, because that's the way society is run, and they go to war. The leaders do not. They're in Washington and Downing Street and the Kremlin sipping tea. A few people can't control the world. It's a piece of piss. And that's the problem. All it takes is for those people who society has ignored, and those people who society has ignored, saying, I've got nothing against you, you've got nothing against me, we're just the same. Our society treats us like shite, and they treat you like shite in your society. Hey, what are we doing fighting each other? But instead, the leader says fight, so they fight. And then people say, a few people can't control the world, it's not possible. Oh my God, man, it's so easy. And all around the world you see the same thing. People being slaughtered by other people because the leaders of these people say slaughter them. And what you have to do is constantly demonize people. Because if you can demonize them and you can dehumanize them, then people are more likely to go and slaughter them. And all around the world, throughout human history, it's gone on and on and on and on. And it has led us to where we are, and it has led us to looking in the face of a dystopia of global control, the like of which we have never seen in, like I say, known human history. Because if you look at what we call history, there has been an incessant centralization of power to now where it's global and beyond politics, beyond the political, it's global. It's in corporations, it's in multinational bodies. So we start out, pick it up in tribes, and we're in tribes, and the people in the tribe are making decisions about what happens in the tribe. Very difficult to centrally control that. Too many points of diversity. So we then reached a point where all the former tribes came together to form what were called countries, nations. Now, a few people at the center of the nation are dictating to all of the former tribes. And this is happening all over the world. We call them countries. Then you move to the situation we have with the European Union. That's when you bring loads of nations together to be centrally controlled from Brussels. Not Strasbourg, where the political people are, from Brussels, where the bureaucrats are. You have groupings like the BRICS grouping, with China and Russia and South Africa and Brazil and so on. Iran joined it now. And you have all these other supernatural national bodies. And what you're doing is you're constantly creating a situation in which fewer and fewer and fewer people are dictating to more and more and more and more. And if you are the few and you want to control the many and you want a global society which you control, what do you want? You want a situation in which the power is centralized and centralized and centralized and centralized to the point where the few have got control of everything. And the cherry on the cake is AI and digital control, because that means that the few can control, by controlling the AI digital system, the few at the center can control everything, including human thought and human emotional response. And that, Brian, is what we're facing now. We're looking in its face, and for the last 30, coming in to be 36 years, I've been pointing out that we were incrementally being taken into this very situation that we're now facing. And it's the totalitarian tiptoe, now the totalitarian sprint, which has step by step by step taken us to this outcome, which comes back to, if you know the outcome, you'll see the journey. If you know what the outcome is planned to be, suddenly you see the incremental steps to that outcome. And because we're getting closer and closer to the outcome, the steps are becoming more and more bloody obvious. And, you know, this is why I've been so vehement in my pointing out that the alternative media has become a myopia, which is revealing things that were revealed a long time ago, but now they're being revealed by the new superstars, and therefore a lot of people who are new to this think it's just happening and just being revealed. It was revealed a long time ago. And the myopia is focusing attention on one level of the conspiracy without seeing the gigantic level. And you know, when I am talking about this this matrix, this fake reality, this simulation, I started talking about it just after the turn of the millennium. I'd been thinking about it before then, for years before then, but it really reached the point where I'm sure that this is what it is. And so that was just after the turn of the millennium. And then from about 2016 onwards, more and more, a lot of mainstream scientists have come out and said, actually, it does look like it's a simulation. And if you take it to be a simulation, suddenly a lot of the mysteries of reality start to make bloody sense. And this is continued. I remember talking back after just after the millennium about the fact that I was saying that this is a simulation, and that on one level, the so-called speed of light is one level of the simulation. But beyond it is the rest of the simulation. But that's basically the human level. And then I read an article in Scientific American in 2021, which was about the fact that this looks like it's a simulation, and that the limit of the simulation, I would say at this level, is the speed of light. And the writer related the speed of light to processing speed. He said that, you know, what happens when you're creating a virtual reality video game is that you can you can lay out the rules and you can lay out the limits, but you're still limited by your processing speed of what you can do. And so as I've looked at this more and more and tried to understand how this whole simulation works, it's become clear that this unfolding, like I said earlier, technological explosion is mirroring the way the actual reality we experience works. So if I had a computer here, I could log it in to the Wi-Fi field. The Wi-Fi field is a radiation field of information. The entire internet is in that Wi-Fi field. But my computer would log into that electromagnetic field, basically, and it would put it, whatever I chose, whatever part I chose, would put it on the screen in a totally different form to what it exists in the Wi-Fi field. It would put on graphics, moving pictures, images, words, whatever. And the more that I've kind of studied this, I've realized, I talk about this in the roadmap, that what we call the human body, and I've been calling it this since the 1990s now, it's a biological computer. And it's doing what a desktop computer does. This matrix, this simulation, is not a physical construct. It's a field of information, just like a Wi-Fi field. And what the body is doing is interacting with this field through the five senses, not least, and it's producing a version of this information field, just like Wi-Fi in the desktop computer, that we think we're experiencing. But actually, in the way we think we're experiencing it, we're not. So I started to see that if you look at mainstream science, what it's saying is that the five senses, which this cult wants us to be focused upon and not beyond it, what they're doing is that's, you know, sight and hearing and taste and smell and so on, touch. They're picking up waveform information. And the senses then turn that waveform information into electrical information, same information, different form, and they communicate it to the brain. And the brain has different parts, the visual parts around here somewhere, that specialize in decoding the five senses. And then the brain puts those sources of information into a form that we think is external to us, but is actually in here. If I had a computer here and it was logged into the internet, and I would be looking at a completely different form of that information on the screen. But where's the screen? Where's that information that's totally different to the Wi-Fi field? It's inside the computer. It's not here or here or here. It's inside the computer. So what we're looking at is a biological computer, the human body, which is interacting with the simulation, the field of information. And it's creating from that information, it's putting it into just like a computer, a completely different form to how it appears in the simulation field. And it's doing it in here. And you know, everything is in this reality is frequency. Everything. We don't realize it. I'm talking to you now. There's not words passing between us. There's a vibrational field of information generated by my vocal cords. It's a frequency field that I'm generating. Your ears pick it up, they turn it into electrical information, and they send it to the brain, and the brain hears the words. It's decoded the frequencies into words. And you know, there are now pain relief systems which seek to stop the messages, the signals of pain reaching the brain. Because if they don't reach the brain, you don't say ouch. So there's pain relief systems to block that message from the point of the pain or the point of the impact to the brain. Everything is the brain taking information and forming it into a sense of reality. And, you know, the way it works is that we see an external reality. It's here, just like it's in the computer. Yeah. And if you look at a virtual reality game, because what this simulation is there for, like I say, is to control human perception so that those perceptions generate the loosh that feed the creators. So if you go on the internet, you look for a montage of people who have, you know, done funny things with a headset on, you'll see people that put the headset on of a virtual reality game, and they might be in an empty room, but once they put the headset on, they're in a completely different bloody reality. They're screaming, they're jumping, they're falling off their chair. They are completely taken over by the reality that's being delivered to their brain, which is overriding the sense of reality they would normally have. And you see people doing, you know, incredible things and being terrified of what is only information being fed to their brain through their senses. When you put the headset on, it's vision. You put the ears on, audio things on, it's hearing, and the gloves on in the sophisticated ones, it's touch. They're overriding the five senses to give you a completely different reality. Okay. Now imagine that the human body is basically doing the same thing. Only what you can do with a headset is you can take it off if you don't like it. You can go, it's only a game. But when you are experiencing through your consciousness experiencing through a human body, from the moment the body forms, it is decoding the matrix. When you enter the world, it's decoding the matrix. It's delivering this reality to you. And you go on through your life because you can't take the headset off short of what we call death. And so you go on through your life, and all the way through your life, the body is decoding the matrix and delivering this reality. And then you go through something we call death. What is that? Well, at what we call death, the biological computer ceases to function. What does it do? It ceases to decode the matrix. ceases to decode the simulation field. And suddenly, when that ceases to do that, ceases to deliver to your awareness, your consciousness, this reality, you find yourself in another reality, which is what near-death experiences do all the time, that is completely different to this one. And so what is death? Death is simply when the vehicle ceases to function. What do we say when the screen on a computer goes black and doesn't deliver the internet anymore? We say, hey, my computer's died. That's what death is. It's the death of the vehicle which is giving us the illusion of this. And if you, and I do go into this because, you know, it's a substantial book in the roadmap, into all this stuff in the ancient far world about how entities, gods, whatever you want to call them, created or redesigned, shall we say, manipulated the human body into the form that it's in. And it's a biological computer. And these entities are using this to decode this to produce the loosh that they feed off.
Got it. Got it.
And we've come a long way from Trump or Harris. These are diversions. They're diversions we should be aware of, but they're diversions. And when the alternative media says, look at this, or the mainstream of it, look at this, and I'm saying, look at this. And that's where the answers lie. And of course it goes deeper into the other levels of the simulation that we call the afterlife, which is actually just another level of the simulation, and the real infinite reality lies beyond the walls of the simulation, the fake reality. And that's where we really come from. That's where what we really are. We are that infinity of consciousness. But what we've done, or what we've had done to us, is to so focus attention within this matrix reality that we've lost touch and we've lost awareness of the infinite awareness that we really are, because our attention has been captured by being in the world and of the world, when really the way to transform everything is to be in the world but not of the world. Your perception of reality is beyond the matrix. And that's why people who get into that beyond the matrix level of awareness, level of consciousness, they see this world in a completely different way to those that are there. Right. And what I'm seeing with the alternative media, and I think, you know, like I say, I think it's cult driven, is, okay, your ideal is to have the population in a myopia that just either obeys authority because it knows no other way, or it obeys authority for fear of not obeying it, okay? And then you have people who become aware that there is actually a conspiracy, but they become convinced that it's political and this world and financial or whatever. And what they do is they go into a slightly bigger prison cell and they see the world in that sense. Oh, Trump's the savior. Oh no, I'm going to vote for Harris, I am. But it's still a prison cell. And this is where the alternative media, the mainstream of it, has held people in the prison cell of a slightly wider Overton window of perception of reality. But beyond these walls is infinity. What are we doing limiting ourselves to a prison of the mind, or an unyielding, unquestioning belief system, when there is infinity to explore and understand? Do you think the entities that are behind this matrix, this perceptual enslavement system, want you here, or want you exploring infinity and seeing this reality for what it really is? Of course, they want you here, and that's what they're doing. And you know, when people are starting to wake up, especially after COVID, if you continue to expand your awareness and ask the questions, the big questions, and understand that whatever you know, there's always more to know, what happens in that mode of thinking, awareness, is that you're constantly expanding. Because, okay, I think I know this, so what don't I know? And it goes on. Now, this global cult and its other dimensional masters do not want that. It's their worst frickin' nightmare. So what they've done systematically is just allow a slight expansion of the perception of reality, and there is a conspiracy, but held the line that it's only the political level that really matters.
David, why were you and I replatformed on YouTube? Because ultimately, we can make people aware of this expanded reality. And when you put it like this in mainstream to alternative mainstream, I mean, I think a lot of people can see that click and can see if they go zoom out a little bit further. Why are we back on YouTube?
Well, there's two things. First of all, the concept has to be that the bad guys are now the good guys. You've got Elon Musk with his reputation for free speech, when I'm shadow banned like crazy. I've got 770-odd thousand followers of my page, but when I speak to people galore, they never see anything I post. Well, they should if they want to follow the page. But those that are selling the myopia and selling the conflict, crucially, the algorithms bloody love them. So it's not a free platform. It's not a platform that is based on everyone the same. You look at Elon Musk, he's turned that platform into an AI propaganda arm. And of course, when Musk posts, the algorithms are on full bloody blast. That's why he gets millions of bloody views. And the X platform was, the whole concept of it was summed up by Linda Yaccarino, who was a World Economic Forum stalwart, who was CEO after Musk took it over. She resigned now, but for years he was. And she said that X believe in freedom of speech, not freedom of reach. So, oh no, don't say we're censoring you. No, you can post what you like. It's just that no bugger's going to see it. And what did she say? If you post something that's lawful but awful, her words, you'll find it very difficult to find it on X. And that's how the whole algorithm thing works.
That's X. What about YouTube?
So YouTube's the same. What they're trying to sell you, because this thing goes in phases. And now they're in this final phase towards their end goal, which is this AI dystopia. And so they have to go from being the blatant villain, which is what we saw during COVID, but they did that during COVID for a particular reason, because COVID would have not been what it was if the exposure of what it was allowed to come out. But now they're in a phase of, we're the good guys now, we're on your side, because they're trying to pull everyone in to this AI dystopia system. So
also, they take things away from you and they give a little back and you're thankful. We saw this during COVID. Right?
Yeah.
Take all your rights away and then say, oh, no, you can do this. And
see, the thing is, it's all connected to the Trump phenomenon as well. It's like, we're on your side, really. So who is running these platforms that are suddenly, oh no, we're the good guys now, we've made mistakes, we see that. But we're on your side now. They're Zuckerberg, at Facebook, Meta, absolutely cult-owned, as is his platform. It's Elon Musk, totally cult-owned. And when he set himself up as the skeptic of AI many years ago now and said it could be the end of humanity, that was because this cult plays the long game. That was him positioning himself as the good guy on AI. So what's his sales pitch? AI is inevitable, but I'm the good guy, so I'll make sure it works. I'll make sure that my system Grok tells the truth and not like the other systems that don't. And you've got Brin and Page at Alphabet that owns Google and owns YouTube. And they're co-owned as well. I've been saying this over many decades now. And all these systems, again, you know when I talk about governments being controlled by the same force, these fricking corporations, like these Silicon Valley corporations, are controlled by the same force. But what you have to do to give the illusion of choice is you have to have apparent conflict between different people. So, someone will say something about Gates, one of these oligarchs will say something about Gates, like Musk might. Or he might say something about Sam Altman. Sam Altman might say something about him, and so on. And it's like, oh no, they're not on the same side, they're in conflict. No, they are, because ultimately this force makes sure they're on the same side. And so all these different platforms have just gone into another mode. Zuckerberg's the same with Facebook. Another mode that says, no, we're on your side now, we're the good guys. And so instead of the stick, it's become the carrot. But the carrot based on algorithmic control through shadow banning. So we'll emphasize what we want you to believe and we'll suppress what we don't want you to see. And it's still the same thing.
So to be continued on YouTube. Let's see how the algorithm treats us.
Yeah, well, if X is anything to go by, it's censorship by algorithm, and it will be the same with the others. And this is the other thing you see. This is another question that I have. These people who've come in from the mainstream, Trump supporters, right up to the last election, some of whom are now going against him. People who have been okay with Israel, even supporters of Israel, vehement supporters of Israel even, who are now saying, oh no, Israel, they're doing this, they're doing that, we're against Israel. All the way through, decade after decade, I've been calling out Israel and being cancelled galore for it since well into the 90s. I've been exposing the whole conspiracy, etc., and been shadow banned and cancelled for it. They come in, and the algorithms frickin' love them. Look at the numbers they get. So why am I banned from 30 European countries? Why am I banned from Australia? Why am I shadow banned? Why are many other people that go beyond the barricade that's been created? Why do they get shadow banned? And why do those that are, I say, have hijacked the alternative media, why do they get massive numbers and the algorithms love them? I think there's a reasonable question to ask there, and I think the answer might be quite interesting.
Okay, well put. David, what does the next 5 years hold for you? You seem younger than ever.
Oh, no, do
you
I?
You do. You seem more invigorated than ever. You seem more focused than ever. And for somehow, I feel like the world needs your message more than ever. And I'm curious what you see happening in the next 5 years, and do you agree with any of that?
Well, you say 5 years. What does that take us to? It'll take us to 2030, 2031.
Yeah, post-singularity.
The reason I've been so vehement about what's happening in the alternative media is because I realize how close we are to this dystopian shutdown through AI and the digital system. It's like I've felt throughout the last 30 odd years like I'm on the side of the road and I'm screaming at a guy just about to step off the pavement. There's a truck coming and he looks at me and he laughs and he steps out and there's a bang. But what's started to happen, at least, is more and more people, not least now, I'm seeing things like posted on the internet, former MAGA people who've left Trump because of what he's done since he came to power. And they're saying things like, so what now? Where do we go now? Well, ladies and gentlemen, where we need to go is beyond the limits of your belief system. Put down the limits of your belief system, get a blank sheet of paper, and ask or insist that any perceptions you have earn their place on that piece of paper. And you're not just taking them because you were born into them, or because you're under peer pressure or whatever, or you've been programmed through the system in many various ways to have those belief systems. Just realize whatever you know, there's always more to know. Make your perceptions earn their place on that piece of paper. Because when you do, you'll realize the world is nothing like you thought it was. And also, can we just agree that we may not all have the same belief, we may not all follow the same religion, although once you start doing that, the religions disappear. On the basis of evidence alone. Devastating stuff in the roadmap about that. Can we just agree that we can disagree on the myopia, if you want, but let's just focus on the fact that there is one force that's manipulating all of us, that's manipulating us to fight each other and be in conflict with each other. And and this is the point. Having a belief is okay, as long as it's fluid. But what so many people tend to do is they so believe that they have it in its entirety that they think they have to impose what they believe on other people. Now, you can have certain beliefs, I can have certain beliefs, or certain fluid, I'll go anywhere that the music takes me, and we can get on because we respect each other's right to be different. We expect each other's right to have different view. That's fine. Once you have that respect, the lines of divide and rule start to disappear. So if we can just respect each other for having different views, stop seeking to impose your view on everyone else, or share what you believe, fine, but don't insist on imposing on people. And let's just focus on the fact that there is one force ultimately that is controlling all of us, and it's doing so by controlling our perception. Now, our perceptions can control us, or our perceptions can set us free. And for me, the most important perception of all is self-identity. What do I perceive myself to be? If you perceive yourself to be a human, not having a human experience, fair enough, but that human is not just an experience, it's you, then you immediately are self-identifying with limitation. Because that level of perception of human, everything's kind of, I can't, it's not possible. And that's where they want you. They want you in two places. One, I'm a human, and when the lights go out, that's it. Or, I am human, and I'm subordinate to a judgmental God in the sky of some name or form, and I'm going to be judged by him on one life or reincarnation life, which is what I say is the game. And I don't think reincarnation is a good thing at all, actually. I think it's a way to keep us in the trap, but I'll go into that in the book. And if you're in one of those two modes, then basically in mode one, the lights go out and that's it. Well, life's a bitch and then you die. Gone. Lights out. Or I'm subordinate. I'm just here, I am. And I'm subordinate to a god or some deity. Little me. And if you self-identify with either, you're self-identifying with subordination or with the fact that human life is basically irrelevant. But if you move your self-identity from I am a human to I am ultimately all consciousness, I am an expression of an infinite awareness of which we are all a part, then you're not identifying with limitation anymore. You're identifying with limitlessness. What happens with that expansion of self-identity from little me to infinite me is that as your self-identity expands, so does your consciousness into deeper and deeper levels of awareness, way beyond the limitations of this ludicrous matrix, this system of perceptual control. And you start to tap in to levels of awareness that can see this for what it is, and suddenly the dots connect, the world takes on a completely different version of reality and what it is, and suddenly you can see the ludicrous nature of human life for what it is. And it stops affecting you in the same way. Because if you are in this world and of it, then what happens in this world and all the rest of it is a massive thing to you. But when you expand your awareness into the true I, which I say is an infinite state of awareness, you are an infinite state of awareness having a brief experience called human. And so what happens in this world affects you far less. And one of the great ways that we are controlled and held in this myopia is drama. Drama. They're constantly providing, I mean, Trump is a drama queen every 5 minutes, but they're constantly giving us dramas to focus upon. Oh my God, have you heard that? Have you heard that? The latest. When you see people in states of distress and drama, and they're pulled in and they're giving the loosh off. Oh my God, you'll never guess what's happened now. And then you see them a few days later. What happened? Oh no, it was all right, it was all sorted out. But you got caught in the drama. The trick is not to get caught in the drama. And there's some things that are worth focusing on, absolutely they are. But so much of life's drama is there just to capture your attention. Celebrity drama, all these different dramas, political dramas. And religious stories are basically dramas. And if we can just withdraw from the drama, you find an equilibrium where you're producing low vibrational emotional states far, far less than you were before. And the more you expand your awareness and you realize, I'm just infinite awareness having a brief human experience, the drama stops affecting you in the same way. You know, you get drama queens, and as they're called, and people who, if there isn't a drama, they have to create one, because they kind of feed off the adrenaline that drama gives them. And that's someone caught in the world and of it. You don't have to be. You can look at this world, you can become an observer of this world in a much more detached way and not get caught in the myopia of the dramas of various politics and whatever, which are designed to control you and control your perception and control your attention. They want our attention. They want to entrap our attention. And once you start to do that, you start to see the panorama and not the myopia. The world looks completely different. I can't tell you how different it looks. And what happens then is people caught in the drama think you're mad, crazy, and a lunatic. And you laugh because you know why they see you like that.
Because you're infinite awareness.
Yeah,
having that brief experience.
They see you like that because you see the world different to them.
Yeah.
And belief systems don't like other ways of looking at the world that see the world differently to them. They think their truth is the only truth. What I talk about, and what I talk about in the roadmap, is simply where I've got so far. Is there more to know? Are you bloody kidding? Of course there is.
I challenge everybody to go back and watch the previous 10 episodes of the Rose Icke series. And you'll find in the last 45 minutes of every episode, David always brings it back to this. You know, infinite consciousness, have a brief experience called life. And all you have to do is zoom out and realize that it is one hell of a simulation and everything changes.
Yeah, what's happened is infinite awareness has been manipulated, or that part of it we experience as humans has been manipulated into misunderstanding that the experience is an experience. What the Matrix and its controllers seek to do is get you to believe the experience is you. It ain't. It's an experience. You are an infinite state of consciousness that's been at its perception entrapped in the belief that your experience called human is you. And awakening, what we call awakening, and it's not awake, it's awakening, always more to know. Awakening is when you go, that's not me. I'm way beyond what I thought was me before. And in the end, you realize that you've been living an illusion. And the illusion is there to entrap your perception, so you produce louche.
It's powerful, David. The book is The Roadmap, Escaping the Maze of Madness. They can go to davidicke.com, pick up a copy right now. Also go to Iconic Media. They can get a copy there and get a lot of the things that you're producing with your whole team over there.
Yeah, Iconic Media is it's a fantastic platform which has the tagline, question everything. Not some things, everything. And see if they stand up to scrutiny. If they don't, what you believe in them for. And so it covers the entire spectrum from the political level right across to the nature of reality. It's an amazing platform.
David, I want to thank you for 7.5 years of an incredible relationship.
Is it that long?
It's that long. Hanging out with you is not for the faint of hearted, I would say, because if you spend time with David, you're going to go on a crazy adventure, which we've been on. I highly recommend people go watch the movie We Will Not Be Silenced, because it's a great way to understand what happened in 2020. We may or may not be premiering that on the YouTube platform soon. And
it's amazing, isn't it, that what I said sitting in this chair on April the 6th, 2020, that COVID was a hoax, and that it was designed to get people to have a vaccine which came a few months later. And people thought I was crazy. The thing is that, one of the greatest ways to control people is to squeeze their sense of the possible. Because if you can squeeze their sense of the possible, this is belief systems, then when someone comes along and says, hey, this is what's happening and this is how they're doing it, that's ridiculous, that's impossible, they can never do that. Well, I wonder how many people now look at COVID in the way they looked at it at the time of COVID, completely differently. And it's seeing it ahead of the game that is the key. And the more you expand your awareness, the more you'll see it. This is not me sitting cross-legged on a mountain, like the Buddha, or under a tree. I'm saying anyone is capable of understanding everything, but only if you let the walls that imprison you, that you have allowed to imprison you, you allow them to go. You allow those walls to fall. You get that blank sheet of paper. You say, my perceptions are now going to earn their place. They're not coming by reflex action, or they're not coming by, as we used to say, an off-the-peg suit. They're coming because they earn their place. And when you do that, the world changes dramatically. And please give it a try, because the world won't look the same.
I can't believe how we've come full circle since that day in April 2020. I can't believe it. It's one of the most incredible adventures, and a great way for people to see everything.
Yeah, and there's always more to know.
David Icke, until next time. All right, thank you so much.
Oh yeah, cheers, Brian.
Stay well.
Cheers, mate.
I feel blessed. I'm so happy to be part of that amazing journey.
I'm glad I decided to pull the trigger and join.
You can literally come into this place with zero knowledge of investing and then learn how to find deals.
In the Investment Club, we get these offers on a daily basis. We get the next papers on our table.
Don't sit around, don't let this play out in front of you. Jump on the London Real Ventures website.
We are interacting with amazing visionaries who are setting up those cutting edge technologies.
This has been an interesting ride, and I cannot wait for you to be a part of the Investment Club. Hope to see you on the inside.
If you haven't jumped on a free masterclass, do it. The best investment you can make is in yourself.
Please join us. You're welcome and you won't regret it.